Hey there. Welcome to a Halloween edition of Cambridge
That's
Inside
right.
Out.
Notice our little decorations.
All right. My name's Robert Winters.
And I'm Judy Nathans.
And today's Halloween in the year 2017 for
Yes.
those of you in the future looking back.
Oh, right. You'll never know it's not Halloween.
Right. In addition to being Halloween, it's also it's our last show before
The big
Election Day. Election Day is 1 week from today.
And you will be at the Senior Center.
Yeah, Susanna Sagat and I will be sort of the anchors, the Huntley and Brinkley of Cambridge election broadcasting.
She's been doing it, and she's my congratulations.
Yeah, my understanding is CCTV is planning to do things a little bit more of a production this year, so it won't just be
just talking heads.
Just talking heads.
Trying to get guests in. I remember.
Yeah, they have some pieces they're pre-recording. They'll roll certain things in.
They've done so much footage from all the forums too that it's just amazing.
Yeah, there's lots of little pieces.
Any forums you can just get them on CCTV.
Yeah. So anyway, tune in. I think it should be a good show. And
what time does that start?
I think they were talking.
7:30,
it's possible that we have started at times in the past at 8 o'clock, but I believe
that's when the polls close.
They were planning on starting up maybe 8:30, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah. Tune in earlier.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Probably Facebook Live too, I bet. They've been doing the forums Facebook Live.
I think so. Yeah. One of the things that I point out to a lot of people about that, when you're sort of doing the election night coverage, whether you were, I was a candidate once upon a time, so you have the kind of the nervousness about it all.
Yeah.
Even though I never really tried that hard as a candidate, honestly. But still, you feel nervous anyway because it's sort of like an approval.
It's exposure too. Thing. Like how many votes did that candidate get?
It's a point of tremendous vulnerability for these human beings who are candidates, and people need to respect that. But the thing is you can't help but feel somewhat empathetic when you're there. And if you're trying to do an election broadcast, you sort of have to try and be kind of even-keeled and objective. But over the course of an election, and actually for many of the people who've been candidates before or are incumbents, you get to know these people.
Yeah.
So you can't really completely divorce yourself from that reality. That's just how it is. And so I always get a little bit of the willies.
You get as nervous as they do.
I don't think as nervous, but the thing is that some of it does rub off on me. And I don't know. Maybe that is how it should be.
Have you heard that in presidential elections? I've heard anchors on CNN say they don't vote. Do you believe them?
No.
To try to be objective, they can't vote. I don't believe that. That's insane.
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
It's one thing to say who you voted for, but come on.
You shouldn't be sort of pushing out there.
Right.
Honestly, for me, that's been a.
I bet people ask you all the time, "How are you going to vote, Robert?" Because they want to see what.
It's really true, and I've always been pretty steady about saying I don't endorse candidates because honestly, if you're in a position where you're sort of just trying to describe things or whatever, it's not such a good idea to be that way.
Right. Not for you. There's people, if they say, this is my opinion.
Well, there's another thing, too, which is that when you come right out and you sort of say, well, these are the good guys and these are the bad guys,
you're taking,
then at that point, you've pretty much taken sides.
Right.
And then 2 months later or next year, people say, oh, you with that person. You're associated with this group or whatever.
You're forever branded.
You are forever branded. And I just would rather, honestly, anybody who knows me or even reads between the lines of things.
You know how you feel about
things. You probably know more or less what I feel about things. But you try
to, in your journal and the candidate pages, which is such a great service.
The candidate pages are absolutely.
Totally unedited.
No, don't touch the endorsement aspect of things at all.
Right.
And I've gotten a number of emails this week saying, where's the endorsement section?
What?
I said, well, there is no endorsement section.
This is not the whatever kind of.
I said, if you want to know what I think, you can talk to me privately, right? And that you can always do.
Also, the candidates that have come on this show, they've actually asked us to be. We don't solicit them, right?
That's right. Actually, I got an inquiry from one candidate this past week saying, "Hey, what's the process for getting on the show?" And I sort of said, "Well, it's kind of random, isn't it? Sometimes we ask people. I think we asked.
I think initially you put out a whole thing to everybody and said anybody's interested in that. It was open.
More than happy to come on the show.
Right.
I think if there was any bias at all, it was that I certainly wanted to give some exposure to some newer candidates.
Right.
And I also wanted to put a little more attention on the school committee race because
that's right. We've done more
all the attention is on the city council race.
That's true.
And honestly, I wish I knew a little more about all the school-related issues. Honestly, I really don't feel I'm completely up to speed on that, but I think it's important. And it's true, many a voter will actually come and cast only they're given both ballots and they are asked to vote to cast both ballots. But
if they don't have kids in school or if they're just new to they just vote for the city council.
And oftentimes they're
just vote one, maybe two.
Right, so there were often a lot of blank school committee ballots cast. So I'll defend that because honestly, if you're casting a ballot and you're completely uninformed,
you probably
there's really not a lot of you probably shouldn't cast that ballot. Honestly, but again, vote, right? Vote.
Yeah, you should vote, or at least try to find out a couple days before.
By the way, I did get the update. The official voter list for of people eligible to vote in the election.
Eligible, meaning they've registered as of the date.
Yeah, and there was some rumor that there was massive voter registration happening in the days leading up to election. Well, there was definitely some.
Yeah.
And you can kind of see a fair number of Memorial Drive, because there's some push down around MIT.
Oh, right, yeah.
Probably related to that graduate student housing petition, I think, but I don't know.
Well, there's some candidates.
Well, there could be some candidates who are canvassing the college campuses who feel they would have an advantage.
Yeah.
But in fact, it was only an increase of about 200 voters from early September to mid-October.
Yeah, but how about from the last election, though?
I don't actually have the numbers here.
What is this 1,000?
There was, I can't read it.
It said 1,212 additional voters.
Yeah, okay.
So it's more than...
Oh, okay, you're right, you're right. But anyway, we had about 65,000 and change in September, and then we jumped up to 66,354. So I guess that's a good jump.
Yeah, so someone was out there getting people registered.
Right. Now that happens prior to every election.
I could guess who some of those people
There's a registration push to do that.
Yeah.
To be sure.
Well, that's interesting because though if you got a third of those votes, that can support your.
Right. Oh, it's true. I mean, honestly, 10 votes can be the margin really because some of these rounds can be close. I remember in
the days when Leland Chung first ran and when Nadeem ran, they both had those MIT backgrounds and they came in first.
It's not in the first.
Well, I don't remember his history
I think
of Leland. But.
The first time Leland Chung ran, in his first race, he was the last person elected.
You keep telling me, why do I think he was the first? Did he go reverse?
No, and he didn't quite even make quota.
Oh my goodness!
Right, because again, not to go too technical in here.
All right.
But the thing is quota is the maximum number of ballots any candidate can keep. If you achieve quota, you also happen to be elected.
But you do have to get that.
But you don't actually have to reach quota. And there, over history, there are the candidates, the last few elected, especially if there are a lot of candidates, might not actually come up to quota.
So he didn't win the first time he came out?
No, he did win, but he was the 9th person elected.
All right.
And I remember talking to a friend, and a pretty knowledgeable political person who said, well, all of his voters were all just MIT students who he late registered. They're all gone now, so he's not going to win. And I told him, I said, no, he's going to top the ticket.
Oh, you're talking about the next term,
for the next election.
And he did. So why do you think that happened that way?
So I earned my street cred as a political pundit.
You did, but what were you basing that on?
Based on the fact that his, again, these are proportional representation elections. Leland had some advantage in that he was ethnically identifiable in a way that distinguished him from other candidates.
That's true.
So he didn't have to share people who were going to vote ethnically.
Good point.
He also he kind of owned a lot of the young tech crowd.
Yes.
Which later Mazen kind of took some of that away.
You're right.
Right? Mm-hmm. So Mazen, I think he was one of the last ones elected his first time in, and his second time through, he topped the ticket.
That's interesting. So there seems to be that pattern.
I don't know if it's really a pattern. Maybe if you just barely get in, you try a lot harder the next time too.
Maybe.
Or
your name is known at least, Yeah, that's interesting.
If you were electable as a first-time candidate, that means you had something going for you. And if you just play on that and continue that, you might do very well.
Now, the third term with Leland, he went down again then, right? Last time,
I don't know about the third time. No, he actually topped the ticket repeatedly before finally.
How many terms has he done?
Oh goodness! He was at least 3 or 4.
Okay. So it was the
Usher
last
Grove.
one where he sort of just kind of got in, right?
He didn't really much run
Yeah.
a strong campaign
Right.
in his last election. I think
Yeah.
his sights were elsewhere at that
Well, he was
point.
having babies and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So you change your priorities and whatnot.
Okay, well, that's interesting.
So
All right.
so anyway, that's the way it goes on
Yeah.
that. So just number wise though, there are actually 66,354 eligible registered voters for this. Now it needs to be stated. I actually ran the numbers, but I forgot to record it. Of how many of those are listed as active voters, and how many of them are listed as inactive voters.
Meaning they voted in the last, what,
Yeah, so
2 years?
now you can be an inactive voter and then you'll vote. Actually, there are
Right.
plenty of them who do. But the thing is, there are many people who are listed as inactive because they've actually moved away, but state law says you can't purge them from the rolls
Oh,
until you've gone through at least 2 state election cycles.
or they return or
And
don't
then they have
return
to
that
then
form.
they have to contact you and,
Right.
and inform you that you're about to get removed,
Right.
and then you can protest it and whatever.
Huh.
So
So realistically, how many people are really?
I would say the number the number of actual
50,
voters are probably in the 40s
40s, wow.
of active voters, maybe 45, 46,000 or something in that range. I'm taking a bit of a wild
Sure.
guess there, but it's been in that range. And in the
Well, how many voted in the presidential election? Is that any indication?
that's higher. Oh, that's
I know, but in this last one,
yeah. So
they would have had been
so-
active voters.
right. So we're probably up around 50,000 there.
Yes, I would say it's probably about 50 then, rather
Yeah,
than 40s, but.
almost
who knows?
all, really, a very, very high number of voters,
Yeah.
of registered voters, did vote in the presidential election.
Yes.
But some of them have moved away since.
Or
so
they don't
so
vote
they're not
anyway in the
reflected.
municipal, they don't care.
Which is often the way it is.
Yeah.
In fact, I will tell you, I'm not going to put the
Mhm.
name out there, but
Yeah.
because I have access to the voter histories, there's at
Mm.
least one city council candidate who has voted in November 2012, 14, and 16, and has never voted in a municipal election,
And it's a candidate?
and is a candidate for city council.
You'll
So,
tell me later.
right. So, the thing is so even
Yeah.
I only vote in national election.
Well, I think there's
candidates
some
sometimes.
candidates that have never gone to a meeting. I don't
That's
watch
really
them.
true.
And that's kind of bothers me.
It bothers me a little bit, but on the other hand,
How do you know what you're getting into if you haven't seen
you
how
really
it
should go. You
operates?
should at least
Do your homework.
I don't want multiple
Yeah.
on-the-job trainees here. I would
No.
rather have people who are a little familiar with things.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, there is something also valuable in a complete fresh look. It's just that we can tolerate one or two.
Yeah.
I don't want to have all the new people
Yeah.
be just newbies because
Yeah.
then they're just going to be making it up, and
And
that's
also
not
a
gonna
lot
be
of
fun.
learning on the job. And, we pay
Yeah.
too much to be learning on the job.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Right. Right.
That's how I feel about it.
Yeah. So anyway, it's been an interesting election season. It's probably with 1 week to go. Definitely we don't want to be endorsing or speaking
No.
specifically about particular candidates, such, but there are some impressions that you do pick up along the way. I
Yeah.
mean, there were certain candidates who steadfastly attended all the candidate forums.
I was trying to keep. Could you keep track of that? Because I've been
Not
at
super
them
well.
or trying to watch them and trying to see who showed up, and it's
Yeah.
kind of hard.
Like, I don't think Ron
Yeah.
Benjamin was at any of them. I think
No, except
Josh
for
Bergen went to
COC.
one.
Right, and also Craig Kelly doesn't go to a lot of them.
Doesn't
He
go
went.
to a lot.
Yeah.
Now, my feeling about
Yeah.
the candidate forums
Don't they have
is,
to answer those questionnaires?
well, they don't have to. I mean,
Well,
but
some
they
of them answered them, but didn't go to the forums.
didn't go to the
Yeah,
forums.
so you really can't tell.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There is a point of view. I mean, I would, in an ideal world, I just would prefer that most of them go to the forums because
Yeah.
I'd like to get a little
Right.
taste of
Right,
what they have to say when they're actually put on the spot. But
right.
many of these forums don't really put people on the spot or even, put them in a position where there's a whole lot of
I
interaction.
thought the Porter Square, which I've been to in the past, I thought was more active. This one I was watching, they were given questions ahead of time and they
Yeah,
could choose
yeah.
what they wanted to answer. What's that about?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit of a misplaced sense of courtesy.
Was that a new format?
It's just a variant. I don't actually remember how.
I don't remember it like that, but then I haven't been to one, so I didn't
Yeah.
find that very.
I mean, they break it up into 3 panels.
I know that,
and,
but they each were given a choice of what to answer to ahead of
Yeah.
time.
I think maybe it's just because
Yeah.
the last time around there were some candidates.
much.
They asked them to do about some topic that they really didn't have much to say about, so they were going to give them
Okay.
at least an option to
All right.
say something or two on what they
So were
actually
you
knew
there?
something
So
about.
was there
Yeah,
any
I was
questioning of them afterwards? Because I don't remember
No.
seeing. No. So I just,
No.
I don't know. I like it more when there's at least some audience
At least a
or
little
something.
bit, yeah. I mean, though I have to say, I've been to some, like the, I don't know if they did it this year. Actually, I couldn't stay to the end of the
Which
Ward
one?
6 Democratic City
I only
Committee
saw
one.
some of that online.
Yeah. I mean, at some point, Democratic or Republican city committees shouldn't really be doing the forums because those are
yeah.
political parties in a nonpartisan
Right.
election.
Right.
But on the other hand, if you're going to do it and it's a service, then
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah.
But you know what sometimes happens is there's a very select group of people who will come to the forums.
True.
I have to say, I mean, I was sort of at the Porter Square when I was kind of
Yeah.
scanning the crowd and saying,
The same.
know this
yeah.
person,
Yeah.
know that person. I haven't seen this person in a while,
Right.
but I know that person.
They always go. Yeah.
These are the former elected
Same thing
officials.
with Green Cambridge, and I like. You know which one I like? The Mid Cambridge one. It's
That's
I
actually
like
my
that.
favorite.
Yeah, because you go to the different tables and it's different interactions. And
Yeah, and-
it is on the spot because you've got.
And you actually
Yeah.
have some back and forth between
That's right.
candidates. You know,
That's
because
right.
somebody will say something.
Right, because there's
and-
3 candidates at a table
Yeah, and
usually.
then somebody said, "Well, I don't think that's really
Yeah.
true."
No,
and then they'll go back
I
and
would
forth.
say I voted as my favorite. Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting. You know, one thing I also find interesting about this, the whole process, honestly, is
Yeah.
that, you know, I mean, when I send out my request to candidates to send information to be
Yeah.
put on their candidate pages.
Right.
By the way, let me just say one thing about that.
Yeah.
The city council response was not great.
Huh.
You know, there were some candidates
Wow.
who never responded, and then there's some who gave just this minimal, you know, sort of
Yeah.
billboard response.
Right.
And then there's some who
Were very
gave these
extensive,
really interesting
Were
responses.
they the same people that went to most of the forums? You think?
I'd have to take a
Yeah.
look and see. You know, but it was
They
sort
tried
of,
harder.
it was definitely non-uniform,
Yeah.
to be sure.
Right.
In contrast, the
Okay.
school committee candidates, there are 12 candidates.
Right. They all.
10 of them gave
Yeah.
detailed responses. 10
That's
out of
true.
12.
Yeah.
Among city council, there are 26 of them. Honestly, I'd say that we got 14 really detailed responses,
Really, and the rest.
and a
no.
handful of others.
Oh.
It wasn't the best.
Yeah. Interesting.
You know, and you know, I mean, there are certain candidates, not to name names, where I wouldn't really expect much because I don't
Yeah.
think they have a lot to say. But
Yeah.
you know, there are some candidates who I think
Right.
are substantial, including some
Yeah.
incumbents who really should have.
Huh.
You know, but you know, I don't know. Hope
Okay.
springs eternal. We still have 7 days. Maybe they'll come in the last moment because it's actually worth mentioning. You know, not sort of time to tout the Cambridge candidate pages or some of the things I do, but it actually is pretty astounding to see what happens in the closing moments as we lead up to election day.
Oh,
I
in
actually
terms
had-
of the hits that you get.
Yeah, and just in terms of number of hits. Again, not to.
Do you have a graph we can show? You have that here, don't you?
Yeah, I'll just sort of
All
say
right.
what's essential here. Right, so for example, in October, so you know things were sort of moving along, 1,000 visits, so whatever. In October, it's up at around over 11,000. I think it was 10,800 last night, but with today, guaranteed
Yeah.
it'll break 11,000, and that includes 7,000 over 7,200 unique visitors.
So unique means that didn't come before.
It means it's different people.
Different people.
For the most
Yeah.
part, it's different people. I'm sure there are some
Right.
anomalies like
Yeah.
that. And there may be some sort of, Russian spammers or two in there too. But that's actually relatively little because I can
Yeah.
see country of origin,
Huh.
right? So there were like over 37,000 individual candidate pages, that group here. But that's actually in October. We still have, from that point, it was 8
October's
days
over
to go.
tonight, right.
To the election. So what I've seen in past
Yeah.
years is that when you get right maybe about 4 or 5 days before election day,
Mm-hmm.
it spikes. It's almost scary.
Wow.
So you might get 10,000 in a day.
Wow. So maybe the people that did not fill those
Maybe you
things
should.
out
Maybe you
do it
should.
now because you're
I
going to
mean,
get
Honestly, 2 incumbents who lost in the 2 are people in the recent elections are people who didn't send anything. So when you have
Who lost in the last?
Dennis Benson, yeah,
Who's the other one?
Ken Reeves 2 years before.
Oh,
So-
the last 2 elections.
Yeah, so actually Minka didn't send much of anything either. So honestly, you know, again, I'm not trying to in any way suggest that this is the prime
Right.
place where everybody
But
goes.
it is the most objective place.
It's
I
probably,
think.
we
Yeah.
probably get more people going there than any
And
of
it's
the other places that
mentioned
I
in a
know
lot
of.
of places too.
Yeah. Now, I think this year we've actually got some other resources. So CCTV,
Oh my goodness.
for bunches of years now, have been inviting candidates to do videos, and
True.
they certainly did that. So there's a link at the bottom of the candidate
That's
pages
right,
to
you have a
that.
link to that. Plus, they've been doing almost all of the forums, which you can
Yes.
find on their, if you
That's
go to
right.
elections, it's
So-
on their YouTube,
Yeah,
it's on their Facebook page.
So voters of Cambridge, now is time to do
No
your
excuse,
research.
right, yeah.
You know, learn it. And honestly, even if
Plus, oh, you'll mention that later.
well, I'm just gonna say
Yeah.
that the even if you've already pretty much settled on your number one choice,
Yeah, you still have to deal with.
then you
candidates.
should rank
Yeah.
others, and
Yeah.
this is actually really the best way to do that. Is just to read out the others, just so you know who to give your number 2, 3, 4, etc. to.
Right.
I mean, I've reached a point where I know who my number one vote is. That's it. I have no idea yet who
You can
number
share
2,
that
3,
to me
4,
later,
5, 6,
'cause I'm
7,
not
etc.
sure.
Right? You know,
Right.
but what I always tell people is at least a good strategy for this and doing how to vote a ranked choice ballot is to look at the whole field of candidates in your mind or on a piece of paper, you know, so to say, no, not these ones, but then pick the ones who you can find acceptable.
Yeah, I've tried doing that.
And then rank them from there, right? So you say, who's my favorite, who's my next favorite, etc.
You can look at different things that are important to you on each candidate. I did that actually
Yeah.
on a graph to just try to figure out
Yeah.
who can I check off the most boxes on.
Some people try to be strategic, and now
Yeah, that
that's something I try to dissuade people from doing. For example, and I'll tell you the most important reason why is that many a voter will say, "Oh, candidate A is safe."
Oh,
You know,
right,
oh, he or she is going to win anyway. So I want to make sure my ballot counts toward somebody else. So
Right.
there's at least 2 instances of candidates that I know who were incumbents who lost
because everyone thought they were
because
safe.
everybody thought they
Yeah.
were safe. So
Yeah,
no candidate is safe. And
Right.
and you can do if you really insist on trying to be strategic,
yeah,
okay, fine, nobody's going to stop you. But it's really not the wisest thing. You really should say who is most representative of you and go with that as your first choice, and so continue from there.
yeah.
Right. Now you did mention,
Yes.
you know, something of speaking of proportional representation. So
Yeah.
Alyssa Pacey, who's the archivist of the Cambridge Public Library, and you know, wonderful person,
Yes.
has basically put together, invited a few of us to be part of a panel discussion on proportional representation, sort of a kind of how to vote and
The night
why do we do
before.
it. And you know, it's sort of interesting. It's
Yeah.
like the night before, and they sent the message out today. You know, to all their big mailing lists, which is actually really big.
Yes.
Saying, "Hey, come on, come all to this
Right.
panel, this forum." I think it's
Monday, November 6th,
November 6th, from 6
6
to
to
8,
8.
right? And
Great cast.
yeah, so the 4 participants are
4.
the 4 panelists, right?
Yeah.
I'm one of them,
Right.
right? So let's get that one out of the
Yeah,
way right away.
yeah.
Susanna Sagat
Oh,
has
that's
agreed
right,
to do
Susanna.
it.
Right.
Glenn Kuchar,
Right, oh
who
boy.
happens to be the originator, the original Cambridge
Of
Inside
Cambridge,
Out.
right. And also
And
he
also
served
former-
on
he served
the
for
school
I
committee?
think it was either 8 or 10 years on the Cambridge School Committee.
Never the council though.
Never saw a council seat. Susanna was also on the school committee
That's
for
right.
several terms. And
And
Howie,
also was the host with you of the revised Cambridge
that's right,
Inside Out.
when we revived
Yeah.
Cambridge Inside Out. And also a fellow named Howie Fain.
Yes,
And-
well, I know from another
From
parts
another
of life,
context.
but that's wonderful.
Right, so
Yeah.
many people in Cambridge may not know who Howie Fain is, but Howie is the person who, my friend David Good and I would go out to visit Howie when we were sort of involved with this group back around maybe 1992,
Wow.
25 years ago, called Fair Ballot Alliance of Massachusetts, that we were trying to promote not just ranked choice voting, but really proportional representation and try and revive that. Didn't really go very far
Yeah.
because you kind of need a crisis for that.
Yeah.
And thankfully, the fiasco in Florida in the 2000
Oh,
presidential election is what got everybody jazzed about, you know,
Yeah.
some of the shortcomings of American electoral system.
Yes.
And I'm sure 2016 presidential election has probably done it even more,
Right.
right? So now there's a renewal of some, I don't know how broad it is, of people with interest
Of ranked choice.
in ranked
Is that
choice
different
voting.
though when you say ranked choice versus PR?
Yeah, a ranked choice
Slightly
ballot is just where you express your favorites in order, right?
So
First
is it
choice,
a
second choice, third choice.
a party thing sometimes?
It could be within
Could
a
be.
party. But
Or with,
most of
yeah.
the implementations, really, essentially all of them, except for a few minor ones, are for single winner elections where you just rank them. So it's really to address the vote splitting
Right.
problem.
Right.
Cambridge is the one city that has retained for now, goodness, 70 plus years. Is it that long? My goodness, I
don't
guess
know.
it is. About 75 years, 76 years. The full-blown proportional representation. So where you rank your choices, but it is used in a multi-member election to elect, in this case of city council, 9 at-large city councilors, and in the school committee, 6 at-large.
Right.
So that's why we have things like quotas, where
Right. You
in
have
some
to
of these
see how
other
many people
places you
vote.
don't have a quota. If you're just electing
right,
one person,
that's
quota
true.
is 50%.
Right.
End of story. You know, so
Does Santa Monica do it? Who are the
I
other
don't think so.
municipalities? Really? They don't do
Oakland,
PR?
San Francisco,
Oakland does?
Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Oh, so a lot more than
Few of the
since I
places,
last
and
heard
other
about
places are
this.
considering it. There's actually bills in front of the Massachusetts state legislature to permit cities and
Yeah.
towns to
I
adopt
think Santa,
ranked choice
Seattle, I don't
voting.
think
I think the
Seattle
state of
does.
Maine.
Well, they did it now for
statewide elections.
Yeah, no, I think it's
So it's-
definitely changing.
Yeah, and Cambridge is kind of, I like to say,
Leading
I
the
like
way.
to call myself, I'm the junkyard dog of ranked
Yeah,
choice voting
right,
in Cambridge, meaning if
right.
you try and take it from us, you
Yeah.
gotta go through me, I'll
Yeah.
bite your leg.
Yeah,
right?
right.
And there was a reason for that, is that if you didn't have at least one place that was using ranked choice voting,
Yeah,
then it would have been harder to sell the idea elsewhere in the country.
right.
So Cambridge has actually played a pretty important role in the preservation of the idea,
Right.
and which is now in fact taking root again.
I mean, in Europe they've had it though, right?
Most democracies in the world use
Yeah.
some form of proportional
Right.
representation. Some use
That's interesting, yeah.
transferable ballots like we do.
Right.
Other places use list system or mixed member proportional, but
Mm.
that's really the rule. The American standard
Yeah.
of having winner
Winner
take all
take all.
elections,
It's so American.
that is just not the
Yeah.
way it's done in the
Winners
rest
and
of the
losers.
world.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you're either the
Yeah,
who won the horse race, right?
Yeah,
It's more like sports. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
so-
it's a hard one to
So anyway, Howie Fain is the other panelist,
Yeah.
and he also wrote the book on the report recommending the computerization of the Cambridge elections.
So
And
who's the fourth one?
it was Howie, Glenn Kuchar,
Oh, Glenn
Susanna
Kuchar,
Segatny.
right, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's this coming Monday,
Yeah.
6/8 at the Cambridge Library. You should come on up, and we'll be doing
Definitely.
that. So
Yeah.
anyway, we're down to a couple of last seconds here.
We'll be back though.
Yeah, so we'll be back in a couple of minutes with Cambridge Inside Out.